Good morning, everybody. You know, um, I've been doing this a long time. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, a better way of eliminating debt. But I want to know, how did we get here? I mean, financially. Financially, how did we get here? How is it? How is it that so many people know so little about something we use so much? I'm talking about the amortized loan, mortgage, credit cards, car loans. Amortized loans we use all the time, but we have never been educated on it, and it's a crime. And usually, I'm pretty upbeat, okay? I really enjoy what I'm doing, but when I stop to think about it, this has been going on a very long time. And the way that we've been trained to think about it, the way we've been taught to think about it, the way we've been conditioned to think about our money is all the wrong way. Now it's so bad that we've learned that cash is king, and we should try to do things all cash, no credit. And I'm here to tell you that having a knowledge of money is going to be easier to manage. It's actually going to be more profitable to manage than to take these sayings that are cut and dried, black and white, and then try to make financial decisions about them. No credit, all cash. All cash, no credit. You see, we need to understand how this works so that we can build individual financial decisions for either it's a business or a family or an individual. So today, I know the title of the show is, never buy houses cash, but there's a reason I say never buy houses cash. Because you can borrow the money so much cheaper. Don, what's cheaper than cash? Well, we're going to find out today. Are you ready to find out? Let's go. Good morning. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, a better way to eliminate debt. And I'm excited today. I am excited today because we're going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, understanding how money actually works for you. And in the first 15 minutes or so, we're going to go over some of the basics so that then we'll get down deeper as we go into the show today. Okay, so let me start with this. Let's put this on the screen. And I said at the outset of the show that borrowing money is cheaper than paying cash. And if you don't believe me, look at every bank in your town. Every single bank in your town, they're the biggest borrowers in town. They borrow our money, and they borrow my money, they borrow your money, they borrow everybody else's money. Okay? And then they put that money to work. However, they invested in property, they invested in loans, they invested in credit cards. They invest that money and they get huge returns off of that money. But the money that they borrow from us, they pay us pennies on the dollar for that. Now, am I upset about that? No, I am not upset about that. What I'm upset about is that we don't know how to do that. We're told a different story, that we should save our money in their banks, that we should not invest, that we should pay cash, and somehow cash is better than borrowing. If cash, paying for things cash was better than borrowing, then why are the largest institutions in the world the biggest borrowers? I'm just saying. Okay, why don't we take a page out of their book? Let me show you something here, and I want to start with this. Okay, so this is $416,000 in debt. All right, let me make this bigger. Let's say, Ruby, do I need to make that bigger? You just let me know. So here, let me do that anyway. Let me make it a little bigger. Okay, because I need to zero in on something. $416,000 in debt. All right. The bank wants them to pay $163,000 in interest. We're going to help them pay only $41,000 in interest, which means their effective interest rate is 0.64%. 0.64%. If you can borrow money that cheaply, what are we doing buying anything cash when we could understand how money actually works and control our purchasing, our borrowing, and how we invest? If we had a way of looking at the money, of learning how our money actually works, we can do much better than what we're doing now. And I'm talking about people. There are some people out here that are doing quite well financially. I meet them on a weekly basis when they call in for our program. But we could do so much better if we learned the meaning of leverage. I know we spend a lot of time in the P.I.L.L method on prepayment of principal. It's only because, we only have a few minutes to spend with you. So let's take a look at another one. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Here's one. Okay. This one is supposed to spend $40,000 in interest. That's what the bank wants. They're only going to do $16,000 in interest with us. Okay, which means their effective interest rate is 1.08%. What's effective interest rate? If you take a look at what they were supposed to spend in interest and what they'll actually spend, effective interest rate means this. What would the interest rate have to be across the board on their loans, the way that they're set up now? What would the interest rate have to be for them to pay $16,892 instead of $40,087? It would have to be 1.08%. So it doesn't matter how much the bank is asking for. What matters, ladies and gentlemen, is how much they'll actually get in interest. Interest is the cost of managing your loan, and you are in control of how much interest you pay. Don't let anybody tell you different. Don't let Susie Orman, don't let Dave Ramsey, don't let any other financial guru tell you that you're not in charge. You are in charge. And let me tell you something else before we get in just a little bit deeper here. Whatever financial situation you're in and you don't like it, there's something uncomfortable about it, it's not your fault. You're actually following the advice that you've been given. And the advice that you've been given is keeping us from experiencing all that we could experience. I'm going to get into that just a minute. Here's 1.08%, borrowing money that cheaply. Here's a commercial loan. Okay, $2 million, $2 million in commercial loans. Okay. And the reason why this is so significant is $2 million in commercial loans. These two commercial buildings make almost $58,000 a month. Okay, the loans are the mortgage payments are only $14,696. Okay, so the person who has these loans feels very good about the deal they made. Let me see, $58,000 a month, and it's costing me in mortgage payments 14,696. It's pretty good return on that investment every single month. Okay, and this is I think the longest term is 25 years on one of these loans. But look at this. What if instead of paying the bank, now they're making money on this deal. But while they're making money on this deal, it's actually going to cost them $1,123,195 to make that kind of money on this deal. And before, the $1,123,000 was just the cost of doing business. That was the cost of doing business. But it didn't have to be the cost of doing business. We're taught that this is a fair trade for what we're making. The millions of dollars that we're making on the deal, this is a fair trade. Yeah, it used to be. But what if we can get the same asset, the same buildings, the same equity, not for $1,123,000, but for $231,468? That's what I'm talking about. Why can't we borrow money at a discount, making it cheaper? Which means if we are spending $1,123,000 instead of $231,668, that is $891,000 we didn't have to spend to accomplish the same goal. And if you spend that $891,000, ladies and gentlemen, you can't also invest it. I need to make a clear distinction between what we could make, what we are making, and what we could make. Listen to this. Money that you could have made that you didn't make should be considered a loss. Remember that, because if you, even in this situation where most people would look at this and say, this is a great thing, this is a good thing. 890, it's going to cost me $1 million to get $2 million worth of property that's bringing in, at this point, almost $58,000 a month. I mean, please, who wouldn't want to be in that position? So it is easy to ignore the fact that it's going to cost $1 million in interest to do that. But if we can get it down to here, we can get the same buildings, the same income for $891,000 less. That's a 79% discount. 79% off. I mean, if I was buying a set of tires and I could get it at 79% off, I'd be great. If I were going to the grocery store and I could get 79% off of my groceries, that would be great. Or when I buy gas, what if I could buy gas permanently at 79% off? We would be in heaven if we could do that. All right. But when it comes to borrowing money, somehow, some way, it has been twisted in our heads that paying this kind of money is okay. And there's nothing we can do about it. Of course, there's something we could do about it. Because if I don't know what my benefit is of managing my loans, because we've been taught, if you can get a low enough interest rate, doing anything to try to lower the amount of interest that you pay is not a sound financial decision. But it's only a bad decision if you don't know what your benefit can be. And we have been taught not to measure the benefits. When you are trying to pay off a loan cheaper and faster, we have no idea how much interest we're saving. So one of the things that the P.I.L.L method does is help us to manage that and measure our success. $891,000 invested the right way over 17 years could turn into $9,314,000. An extra $9 million for this investor. So in other words, they're throwing away an extra $9 million that they could have had, but they decided that it was okay to give the bank all of that interest. Oh, by the way, let me give you a little bit more information on this. This is at 1% return on your money. 1%. The national average is 6 to 7%. What would it be if it was 6 or 7% instead of just 1% on these numbers here? Does this make sense to you? Does this make sense to you that if we could borrow money this cheaply, we should not be paying cash? And I'm going to get into more numbers here in just a minute. Okay, so we've got this example. You got example after example after example. Okay, let me see. Let me make this one bigger. All right, here's another one. 1.1%. I can borrow money at 1.1%. Turn that $179,000, this $500,000 I don't need to pay. Look at here. We can turn it into another $4 million. Okay, for this particular client over 27 years. It is amazing what compound interest can do for us. All right. Listen, I need to know if you are interested in wanting to know how compound interest can work for you. If I need you to, if you're watching me on YouTube or Facebook right now, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Number one, subscribe to the channel. And number two, like the videos, comment on the videos, because the algorithm loves that information. So like the videos and subscribe to our channel. Would you please? Can you do that? That will help us to get the message out. All right. So right now, if you want to know how you can benefit by managing your debt faster and cheaper, I need you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back after we watch this video. Come on. Uh-oh, where's our video?
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse, just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
All right, folks, I need you to watch this. I'm going to put some things on the screen for you here, and just to give you a little background, and then we're going to get into what else we could do with our money. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at how to pay off these mortgages and other debt. All right. Easier and faster. So, first of all, let's take a look at this. You want to be able. All right. And there we go. What's going on here? All right, there we are. All right, so there's my book. All right, so get the book. All right, start teaching your young people so that we don't have to overcome all of this stuff that we've been fed over the years about how to really manage money. Okay. Because the way that we've been taught how to manage money makes the bank more money. So let's start out teaching the young people. Use my book to teach your young ones how money actually works, and then watch the videos that we put up on YouTube. Right? You want to be able to do that. So let me get into why it is important to do this, because what we're teaching is you will not hear from accountants. You will not hear from financial planners. You won't hear from bankers. Why? Because what we are taught is something other than what would benefit us. So you won't get it from your accountant. You won't get it from your financial planner. You won't get it from your banker, because they're taught the same way we are. Yeah, we're taught the same way we are. Okay, so you also will not get it from Dave Ramsey, all right, Susie Orman, Gene Chatsky, Larry Burkett. You will not get the information that we're talking about from them either. Okay, so here's why the ability to read and defeat an amortization schedule is not taught at any level of financial education. Think about it. Have you ever been taught how an amortization schedule actually works? No wonder we're taught to pay cash instead of leveraging someone else's money like banks do. I am not anti-bank. I am pro-education. It's financial education we are in need of. So here is what P.I.L.L stands for: prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. All right. So we're going to spend some time in prepayment of principal. Now, let me tell you this right now. There are many people who watch these videos and they get the basic information and they believe they understand the P.I.L.L method and that this is something that they can do on their own. What I'm explaining here on these videos, you don't know the inner workings of how we come up with these numbers. Okay. I'm just teaching the basics here. To optimize interest savings is a math problem that is monumental. I mean, it is huge. To optimize interest savings, anybody can save interest. Anybody can pay off a loan faster just by throwing money at debt. But to leverage properly, you want to pay the least amount of money at the right time so that you can save the maximum amount of interest per dollar applied. You want to get the most out of every dollar. And to get the most out of every dollar, you need to do the right thing at the right time with the right loan. And that is a huge math problem. And that's why we've put together an AI system that does all of the math. You can learn the basics here, but to understand factorial math and looking at all the variables that you have, and when you have a bunch of variables, then how you attack those variables or how you line up those variables, the sequence of how you spend your money and invest your money, doing things in the right way at the right time. All of that is important. So the more variables you have, the more permutations you can come up with, meaning what are the different ways I can do it? There are millions of permutations for each and every individual out here. And one of them is optimum. We're going to save you time and energy. And instead of trying to do millions of computations to come up with the one right thing to do, we do that for you in about a second and a half. All right. We run those numbers. Our AI system does that, and it tells you what to do and when. So here is the reason why we need help. This formula right here. Now, Albert Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world, but amortized interest has to be the ninth wonder of the world. Compound interest and amortized interest, two different things. We're going to show you some examples of compound interest before we're all done. Okay? But I'm taking the time to dig down deep into this so that you all can know the difference. Stop referring to mortgages as compound interest. Mortgages are not compound interest. They're amortized interest. Banks pay compound interest, but you pay them amortized interest. Two different things. Now, if I can get paid amortized interest, you better believe I would want that all day long. Okay, let me show you what else is happening here. If they have a formula to make all of this money, this formula makes trillions of dollars a year, trillions upon trillions of dollars a year just on mortgages. We're not even talking about second mortgages. We're not even talking about credit cards or car loans. Just mortgages. It's so much money that it boggles the mind. And we still roll on as a society. We still do well financially when 35 to 39% of our take-home pay pays interest. Yeah, add it up sometime. 35 to 39% of your take-home pay pays interest payments alone on your loans. The average family has 13 different debts, even though they're doing very well financially. But they could do so much better if they didn't have to pay all of that interest and still acquire the property they wanted to acquire. You can do so much more with so much less if you just knew how. If we would just start teaching how to do that. So wait a minute, let me go back. If the bank has this, what do we have? What do we have? We got a pencil and paper. We've got a dime store calculator. We have what? We have a spreadsheet. You know, we can manage with spreadsheets, but we need so much more. We need a dynamic program. We need something that is can do all of the math and do all of the calculations with current data. A program that's constantly changing with the information it receives. So an optimization program that's dynamic means that it's going to give you the best outcomes with current data. How much did I spend today? How much did we spend on groceries this month? How much did we spend on electricity or gasoline? How much did we spend on our kids' college? What did we spend on replacing the hot water heater or roof damage? Listen, when you have your income and your expenditures constantly changing, how could you possibly know what is optimum to do at any given time? And we're told that it's easy for us to do, so we believe that it's easy to pay off the debt and to save money. It's not easy, because every single dime you don't save by optimizing is an extra dime the bank picks up. You better believe that. All right? So where's our algorithm to cut interest costs? Where is it? We don't have one, but we certainly need one. Okay? Here's what banks don't want you to know. Amortized interest is deceptive. The interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay. Okay? So what we need to understand is what we see, we don't get to see behind the scenes because we're not taught to see behind the scenes. We're taught, listen, let's get the lowest interest rate we can. And when we get this low interest rate, we're golden. Well, here's a $500,000 loan at 3%. The interest paid on that over 30 years is $258,887.20. $258,000 on a $500,000 loan. Folks, does that look like 3% to you? Well, it's not 3%. It's actually 51.777% all day long. All 3% loans for 30 years are 51% loans. They're not 3% loans, 51% by the time we're done, because we have not been taught how amortization actually works. So we got people out there saying your loans are cheap. Why do anything about it if I can get a 3% loan? And then I could invest and get 6, 7, 8, 9%. Why do that? Well, listen, by the time I'm done with this, it's not 51%. By the time our company is done with this, it's at less than 1%, around 1% or less. If you could borrow money at 1% or less, what are you doing paying cash for anything? Do you know the wealthiest people on the planet, most of them don't pay cash for stuff. They've learned how to leverage their money. They invest their money while they borrow somebody else's money. Why would they? Do you know the wealthiest people on the planet, they get special treatment from the bank? They go behind big giant wooden doors, okay, to go into the bank, and they have special services because they are very low risk. So they get special services to borrow the bank's money while they put their money to work. I'm trying to make sure that all of us get that information. Okay. So let me go here. Okay. So at 300,000. No, let me go back. Let me go back to this one. Let me go back to this one. $500,000. Okay. At 4%, you're going to pay back 359,000. That's 71% of what you borrowed. At 5%, you're going to pay back 466,000. That's 93%. You see what's going on here? At 6%, you're actually going to pay back more in interest than you borrowed in principal. But it's a payment we can afford. But it's a payment that is expensive to maintain. How can a payment be affordable and expensive at the same time? Because when you make your payment on your loans, the amount of money that is attributed to principal or paying back the loan is very small. So your loan is discounted each month. We're going to get into that in just a minute, how much it's discounted. Okay. 7% is what mortgages are at 7% now. Okay. And here's the bank wants them to pay on their $500,000 home, $697,000. That's 139.5%. Do you want to pay, almost $1.2 million for your $500,000 home? Absolutely not. But we are conditioned to do that because we're not measuring the outcomes. Okay? Now, I need you to see this. We're going to spend a little bit of time on prepayment of principal. This is not the P.I.L.L method. This is just understanding prepayment of principal. The P.I.L.L method actually has to do with the education that we provide and the technology that we provide so that you can optimize the use of your money, how you can buy more with less, how you can do more with less. And that takes a lot of calculations. But we're just going to understand the basics today. These basics are not what we do in real life. It's just a basic understanding. So please understand that today. But you need to know that you have a right to manage your loans so that they benefit you. Okay? You need to know this. You have a right to make payments of principal at any time before they are due. A payment of principal only is known as a prepayment. When I make a prepayment, I will tell the note holder in writing that I am doing so. You can make a full prepayment, meaning you can pay the loan off anytime you want, or partial prepayments without paying any prepayment charge. This is your right to do. It is your right to do. Okay. And if you're sending messages in, I will take a look at that when I get a chance, because I can't see it right now because I'm doing this. But go ahead and put your questions in. If you want to come to the stage, please click on the link and come into the studio, and we'll talk one-on-one if this is interesting to you. And Ruby, if somebody wants to come in, let me know, and then I'll stop what I'm doing here, and then we'll talk to them. Okay. All right, here we go. The note holder will use all of my prepayments to reduce the amount of principal that I owe under this note. If you prepay, then all of that money is not discounted. It all goes to principal, and it lowers how much you owe without being discounted. So you can give the bank back money. Here's what this means. You can pay back the bank money on your own timing, and it makes it impossible for them to charge you interest when you're paying them. But if you pay on their schedule, they're discounting your payment severely in the first few years. And we don't understand that. My job is to make sure you understand what's happening so that you can get that notion out of your head that we should be paying cash for houses or cash for cars or cash. Listen, let's learn how to leverage correctly so we can invest our money correctly. Let's do that. All right. So if you make a partial prepayment, there are no changes in the due date or in the amount of my monthly payment. So don't get confused when I show you this in a few minutes. Okay. If you prepay, your payment schedule doesn't change. You still owe a mortgage payment or a car payment or a credit card payment every single month. What we're doing is showing you how to make fewer payments. Instead of 360 payments, why not pay 84 and be done? This is what we're talking about. In about 7 years, 7 to 9 years, you could be done. All right. And save a ton of interest. If I make a partial prepayment, there will be no changes in the due date. Due date stays the same, or the amount of my monthly payment, unless the note holder agrees in writing to those changes. So for most loans, you don't have to worry about that. So it's not going to change, but the payment won't change, or your monthly schedule won't change. I'm just saying, why stay on a 360-month schedule when we could turn it into 84? Why? So let's watch this. I need you to understand this part, and then we'll look at why it is important not to use your cash to purchase houses or cars. Put your cash to work. Leveraging money is for people who have assets. It's not for people who don't have assets that can pay the loans off quickly. You just choose not to, because if you take a look at, try to understand this. If I borrow money, I have to pay interest. But if I borrow money over here and I pay this interest over here, this allows me to use my money and make this much interest on the money that I'm investing. Listen, if I asked you to give me $5, but I would return to you $15, would you take that deal? Give me 5, I'll return to you 15. Would you take that deal? Yes, you would. But what if you had to borrow the $5? You had to borrow the $5 and pay a small amount of interest on the $5. We're so focused, we're listening to people say that this interest thing is a bad thing. When you tell your subconscious that interest is bad, I don't care. Your subconscious doesn't make the difference between paying interest and making it. If interest is bad, interest is bad. So if you're so worried about paying interest, you're going to be less worried about making it. Right? Okay. So let's look at it the way it's supposed to be. I'll pay a little bit of interest over here so I can make a ton of interest over there. That's exactly what your bank is doing. Why can't we do the same thing? Okay. So here's a $200,000 mortgage at 6%. For 30 years, here's what the bank wants, $231,676. It's a suggestion. It's a suggestion. They're suggesting that you pay them $231,676 if you keep my money for 30 years. But you don't have to keep it for 30 years. You can return it to them early. They want you to repay a total of $431,676. You don't have to. You can pay a lot less, 2/3 less, 75% less. Okay? You could if you knew how. And you can do this without sacrificing lifestyle. You can live well while you're doing this. You don't have to live like a pauper to save money. You don't need to throw a lot of money at the debt to manage your finances. You just need to pay less interest, and we show you how to do that. Okay? So instead of giving the bank 115.838% of what you borrowed, okay, giving them back $231,000 in interest to borrow $200,000, which is crazy, by the way. We don't have to do that. We're just conditioned to do that. So here's what we could do. I need you to take a look at this. Here is how this breaks down. Okay, here's how it breaks down. When you make this first payment, $1,000 goes to interest. $1,000 goes to interest. Okay, I'm going to do the math for you right here, and you could do this yourself. The payment is $1199.10. So if you take your calculator, all right, and put $1,000 into your calculator, like I'm doing here, $1,000, and you divide it by the payment of $1199.10, divide it by $1199.10, okay, that is 83% discount. When you give them $1,199.10, 83% of that money is discounted, and only 17% of the money pays down the loan. So out of every dollar here, 83 cents out of every payment dollar is discounted by the bank, so that only 17 cents out of every dollar is paying down the loan. Do you want your loans discounted this way? It doesn't have to be. You can turn this thing all around. Okay, so if I subtract the $199.10 from what I owe, I'm left with $199,800.90. So now they're going to do some math and they figure out how much interest I'm going to pay next month. And the interest that I pay next month is going to be $999. So $200.10 goes to is attributed to principal. All right. So the amount of interest that I pay gets less, while the amount of principal is more, but the bank gets the whole $1,199.10. They get it all. They just discount it. And over the life of the loan, they discount my payment less and less and less. Well, why should we stand for that? Okay. So if I have $200 here going to principal, then I'm left with $199,600.80 that I still owe. I'm paying back this loan with $200 payments instead of $1,200 payments. We shouldn't have to put up with that. We could do much better by understanding just the simple basics here. If I decide that I start out my payment in January, I can see that my February principal payment here is $200.10. All right. Because I paid in January, my payment was discounted by 83%. But if I look at my principal payment for February here, it's $200.10. I don't have to wait till February to give the bank that money. If I give the bank that money in January, in addition to my regular payment, all $200.10, 100% of my money gets applied to principal, and it's not discounted 1 penny. Now, if I do that, I'm paid down to here in January. I'm paid down to the line 2 on my amortization schedule in January. So my next mortgage payment will actually be on line 3. So if I give them this money early, then what happens to this $999 in interest? By giving the bank this $200 early, I get the discount off this loan. I save $999 off this loan. You would save $999 in interest you don't have to pay the bank on this loan. Your overall interest charge is reduced by $999, just like that. If that's the case, then what would happen if you gave them $603.30 instead on top of your loan, the next 3 principal payments? Do you see why it is so much cheaper? It is so much cheaper to do this. Besides, when you do the math here, okay, if I give them $200.10 early, okay, and I save $999 in interest, do you know what the return on investment is here? Here's what the return on investment is. Take your $999, divide it by the $200.10, divide it by $200.10. And then when you get the answer, multiply it by 100, okay? $999 divided by 201.1, okay, equals 4.967. Then you multiply that by $100. That's your return on investment, 496%. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with getting a 496% return on your money? Here's what this means. Where did I get the $200 to prepay? It was most likely sitting in my bank account with some other money, making 0.1% in a savings account. I can take that money out of the bank that's making 0.1%, invest it over here, and instantly make 496% return on my money, because it won't cost me $999 in interest to pay my mortgage off by an additional $200.10. So if I give the bank the principal payment on line 2, 3, and 4, that's a total of $603.30. If I prepay that, I save nearly $3,000 in interest I never have to pay. Lord have mercy. I need you all to kind of get the idea here. Now, what is the right amount to pay? People ask me that all the time. What's the right amount and what's the right day to pay it on? I don't know what it is for you. It's different for everybody. This is why we have a dynamic program that tells you when to pay and what to pay to optimize your interest savings. Not to save a little bit of interest, but the most in interest that you possibly can. So here's what I need you to focus on, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Focus on interest cost, not interest rate. We're too focused on interest rate because we're not taught to figure out what the cost is. If you can't figure out the cost, you can't figure out what your benefits are. And this is why I get so excited about teaching this to the masses. I need you all to share this video with everybody. Okay? So focus on interest cost, not interest rate. Okay? So when you do that, then you begin to understand what you could do with small amounts of money. The other day, my wife and I are walking, and we start finding change on the ground. We found in a small space of time, we saw some change, and we start picking it up. You know, I pick up pennies in the parking lot, but we found over $2 and change. Okay, let me show you something what you could do with a small amount of money. Okay, This is called the power of the penny. When we paid that $200 early, we saved about $1,000 in interest, which is a pretty good deal. That's 500% return on your money. But what if you only had $100? What if you only had half and you prepaid this loan? You give the loan $100 when it's not expecting it. On this mortgage, it saves you $500 in interest you don't have to pay. And that it only costs $100 to save $500. Okay. But I don't want to go there yet. Okay, that's the good part. Okay. And if I don't have $100, I could do $50. What if I prepaid $50? That would save me $250 in interest. Or listen, let's go down to here. $3.13. $3.13 prepaid on this loan saves $18.75. Let me ask you, if you gave me $3.13 and I gave you back $18.75, how often would you do that? Your bank has to do the same thing. When you give them money, when they're not expecting it, it saves you a ton of interest. You don't need a lot of money here. What you need is the right amount of money to put towards the loan at any given time. So, Don, where am I getting this money? Well, it's called discretionary funding. Where does it come from? By you managing your debt. Now, on Sunday, we're going to be talking about, should wealthy people budget? Everybody should budget. And we're going to be talking about what a budget actually can do for you. A budget doesn't restrict you. A budget actually frees you up to make a ton of money, to save a ton of money, and to make a ton of money. That's what the foundation here is budgeting. And we're going to get to it when we understand why wealthy people should budget. Oh my goodness. We're going to learn the basics of all of that. So here's what I'm saying. If I have an extra $3.13, I can save $18.75 every time I give the bank that money early when I want to give it to them. Not when they're asking for it, but when I want to give it to them. You get to choose. So here's $1.56. I've cut it in half again, $9.38. If I cut it in half again, 78 cents, says $4.69 in interest. Isn't that great? 78 cents saves $4.69 in interest, all the way down to 1 penny where I'm saving 7 cents in interest. I pick up pennies in the parking lot. We want to make every single one of your pennies do the maximum amount of work that it possibly can. And we're going to give you a GPS system that tells you exactly what to do and when. Exactly what to do and when. So I'm going to come back in just a minute. Okay. We're going to play our other video here and talk about what the P.I.L.L method can do for you. Okay. We're going to play that video right about now. And then I'll take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to go over compound interest, what compound interest can do for you when you are saving this amortized interest you're no longer giving the bank. Watch this video.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
All right, folks. Let's put Brent Whistle on here. Here's what I need you. No, I don't want to go there. Not yet. Let's go here. Okay, if you want to know how you can get this program for yourself. Okay. Go to ice10k.com. Go to ice10k.com and get a savings and earnings report. How much does it cost to get a savings and earnings report? How would you like to know, finally, how you can manage your debt and make more money, buy more house, buy more car for less money? What does that mean, Don? I can't control the amount of what people are charging for houses or what it costs to buy a car. I have no control over that. What you can control is how much interest you pay to borrow the money, which means you can get more house now. You can get more car now. You can get what you want now and pay less money for it than a much smaller house that you don't want. If you can save money on the interest, you don't have to settle for what you don't want. You can get what you do want and need for your family because it's going to cost you less. Why not do that today? Okay, get your free savings and earnings report. If you already have a loan, you can plug all your information into here and we'll tell you the month, day, and year you could be debt free and how much interest you could save. And with that saved interest, we can also tell you over the time saved. Let's say we knock off 17 years, we'll knock off 18 years or even 20 years off your loan. Let's say we do that. How much would your savings, how much would it make for you in that period of time? We're going to give you those numbers and we give it to you for free. Get your free savings and earnings report today. Go to ice10k.com and click on get a savings and earnings report. Okay, we're going to come back to that in a little bit, but I need to show you this. I want to show you this. Here's a compound interest calculator. Okay, and I got this from NerdWallet. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and paste it in here. Okay, there we go. Paste it. There we go. And so, oh boy, that's a long link. Oh my goodness. If I had known that, I would have shortened it. Okay. That's a very long link. But anyway, this is from NerdWallet. Okay. So here's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to understand what compound interest does for you, even a small amount of money. Okay. And we're going to invest money over 30 years. So when you get a mortgage, most people get a mortgage for 30 years. All right. So what we're going to be talking about is even if I had the cash to pay on a mortgage, I wouldn't because of what compound interest could do for me. So if I could start out with a base deposit of $5,000, okay, and only $1 monthly for 30 years at 6% return turns into $31,000. What if we could actually do $100 monthly? Look at that, $130,000. What if it was $1,000 monthly? Look at that, $1,034,000. That's at 6% over 30 years. Why would I have? Listen, if I could take my cash, okay, if I had enough money to buy a $200,000, $300,000, or $400,000 house cash, why would I? Even if I had millions of dollars and I could buy a $2 million house, why would I do that when compound interest does this kind of work for me with small amounts of money? You know, there are people that I talk to all the time that have $2,000 discretionary. They could easily put that away each month. And look at this, $2 million. All right. Somebody's clapping their hands out there. I see you. Okay. Is that Kalaman? Oh, listen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But small amounts of money invested over long periods of time can return to you fantastic wealth if you know what to do. And that's just at 7%. Do you know we have people that are averaging not 6%, but 10? Look at that. Look at that. Well, let's take that back down to $1,000. Look here, $1,000 at an average of 10%. Still over $2 million invested over time. Compound interest working for you is tremendous. Why would we ever pay cash for money when we could borrow it? I need you all to play around with this thing. Right? It's that Nerd Wallet. Or listen, get any compound interest calculator and play around with it. We're taught not to think long term. We're taught to think short term. Interest rate, not interest cost. Okay, and payment. Okay, and what is my payment going to be? Not what is my net worth going to be. What is my payment now instead of what my net worth can be? We need to be taught differently about our money. Listen, Brother AJ, listen, I see you out there. Brother AJ says yes, okay? I saw you out there of Strategic Secrets. You said yes. Listen, can I get some from the people that are watching? If this information is working for you, put a number 9 in the chat right now. Put a number 9 in your in your comment section right now. And if you have any questions about what should we do and when should we do it, all right? Let me take a break right now. I'm going to take a break right now, okay? and I want to thank my administrative assistant, my executive assistant. Been with us for 5 years now. Okay. All right. Terasa Walton. Terasa Walton has been with us for 5 years. Amazing, amazing, amazing. All right. Done such a great job. And so after our show today, we're going to be celebrating her with all the dedication. She's many of you have talked with her. I mean, she's the face of the company. She's the first voice you hear when you call in. You talk to her. You don't talk to me. You talk to her. And the amount of information that you can get from her because of the time that she took to study the P.I.L.L method and be able to answer your questions and give you 5-star customer service. So today is her 5-year anniversary, and we're going to be celebrating her here in the office, here in Madison, Alabama. So thank you, Terasa. And listen, she's on Instagram, she's on Facebook, or you can just send her a message to the P.I.L.L method, text her or send her an email and congratulate her on 5 years of dedicated service. Thank you so much, Terasa. Back to the story here. Okay. So if I can do this, why would I ever, let me put something else here. Okay. We're going to take a look at 400,000. Okay. I'm going to do a 400,000. No, 420,000. That's the average, 420,000. All right. At 7%. Okay. And okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 2 at 7%. Okay, boom. Okay, I need to add another 0 here. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we are. Okay, 1.2 million. 1.2 million. And if we did 1.2 million, here's how much interest the bank wants. $1,674. $1,674,000. $1,674,000 in interest on this loan. Okay. So we don't have to pay all of that. We can cut that by 75 to 80% if we need to. But if I take the $1.2 million out of my investment, as soon as I do that, it stops earning money. What if I'm making 6, 7, or even 10% on average? What if I'm making that kind of on my money? As soon as I take it out of the investment, I'm no longer making money. If I take this money out of an investment to purchase this house at $1.2 million, do you realize that it's actually costing me money? The bank was going to charge me $1.6 million to borrow the money, but I don't have to pay that. I can pay a lot less. So if I take a look at what that money could make for me over 30 years, okay? So let's go back. Let's go back. Let me play around with this. Okay, let me play around with this thing. Remember, we started out at 5,000. Okay, but if I had $420,000 saved up to purchase a house cash, okay, 400. Oh, I'm almost afraid to put this in here. 420,000 is what we're going to start with. I need you all to see this. If I take my money out of the bank, $420,000, if I take it out of the bank just so that I don't have to pay, look at this, 420,000. All right. And they'll say, Don, why pay all that interest? Okay, because you could pay for the house cash. Okay, because if you don't pay for the house cash, they want you to pay them $585,000. But if I take that money out of the house cash, all right, look at that. Over 30 years, look how much I'm giving up. $10 million. Would you spend $500,000 to make 10 million? I'm just saying. Okay, brother AJ, do you see what we're talking about here? People are paying cash for stuff because they're so focused in one spot, they're not looking at what it's costing them. That's called an opportunity cost mistake. I'm not looking at what the money could make for me. And listen, what is my payment here? What's my payment per month? Okay, let me take a look at that. I'm gonna take what is my payment per month? It is $202,749. Okay, let's just put it in here. Let's just put that in here. Let's put $2,500 in here. Look at here, 13 million. I see. So brother AJ said, I see it. It's a big mistake. Don't pay cash for houses. Don't do it. Because now you could, if with the interest that we could do, we could put that money away. We could pay a lot less interest. And let me see here. Let's just say, instead of 585,000, okay, 585,937, okay, divided by, we'll divide it by 3. Okay, look here. I could pay 195,000 instead. I could take the rest of that money and invest it. Okay, so I've got money that I'm already investing. All right, I'm not taking it out. I'm not taking the $400,000 out. Okay, and I could pay off this loan in about 84 months, pay them a lot less interest, and then start looking at building up my family's net worth here. Now, what about the person that has over $1 million? So the wealthy, and this is why we're going to be talking about this on Sunday. Can we put up that graphic right quick? Okay, on Sunday, you don't want to miss Sunday. If you're doing well financially, Okay. You want to be here on Sunday so that you can say, listen, answer the question. Answer the question. Should wealthy people budget? I like it. Everybody should budget. Okay. So here's what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. If we could now let's change this instead of taking $420,000 out of my investment. Because if you've got this kind of money, if you got $420,000, chances are it's not sitting in a bank account making 0.1%. Chances are it's not doing that. Okay? Chances are it's not doing that. It's in an investment somewhere. But what if I have 1,200,000. Uh-oh. It won't even let me do that. Okay? It won't even let me do that. Okay. So will it let me do 1,000,000? I can do 100,000. Okay. Let me see if it'll let me put one more zero in here. There we go. $1 million house. Okay. And I could put another $2,500 a month with that. Look, that's over 30 years. That's $25 million. Do you see what compound interest can do for you? It makes absolutely no sense to pay cash for houses. You know, this is why I'm excited about what we do, to tell you the truth about what's going on. All right, so let me go back to here. Let me go back to these examples. And we're going to break this all the way down here. This is a person with $188,000 a mortgage, total other debt $73,000. We got $262,000. Instead of paying $394,000, they could pay $97,000 instead. Okay, that would make them, now their finances probably aren't as strong as some others, but they can still get an effective interest rate of 2.23%, while their money could be making somewhere between 6 and 10%. Turning that into over 22 years, $1,183,000, and that's at 1% interest. That's at 1% return on your money. These people are regular W-2 workers. They're not investors in commercial buildings. They're not, they don't own a car dealership. They're not, they don't own a business. They're W-2 workers. When people who make a paycheck for a living can make this kind of money just by learning how to leverage the bank's money correctly, then let's stop the noise. Mr. Ramsey, let's stop the noise. Anybody else who's teaching that cash is king? Let's learn how to think like a bank. You know what? Because there are more banks out there that do well financially than people who pay cash for stuff. Paying cash for stuff, you lose so much money. You can see now that you're losing millions. You're losing millions if you take your money out of an investment instead of keeping it in an investment and gaining that compound interest over the life of what you would have, what it would have cost you to borrow the money. Even if you paid every single dime that the bank wanted you to pay, you're still way ahead. But how much further could you be ahead if you kept your money in your investment, bought the house on a 30-year mortgage, and pay the house off in 7. My goodness. Now you have that asset. You got this asset over here. I mean, your net worth is going through the roof. Okay? Any questions about any of this before I show you what was really going on behind the scenes? What does it take? What does it take to learn how to do this? What does it take? What do you get from us? What do you get from us at the P.I.L.L method? You get education. That's number one, because we're an education company, not a technology company. We're primarily education, but technology is part of what we do. Okay? Technology is part of what we do. But listen, if I can take that $1 million, keep it in there for 30 years and add to it $2,500 a month, my goodness, and turn it into $25 million, why would I do that? Okay? So here's what I need you to see. Here's what I need you to see. Get a program like this that's going to help you to budget and manage your money. Okay? Go ahead and get this. We can show you how to get this. And the first thing you need to do is get a savings and earnings report. All right? But that's the first thing you need to do. Get a savings and earnings report and see how this program can benefit you. When you learn how it can benefit you, then you can take a look at what is my interest savings by using this program. All right? Nay Wilson says number 9. Okay? What can this save you? $179,000. Okay? $179,000. Okay? And wait a second. People are asking me all the time, Don, how much does your program cost? How much does it cost? Okay? The cost is nowhere near what it costs you not to use it. Okay? Let me show you something here. Before we get into here, what does it cost? What does it cost? We need to get rid of that off our screen. There we go. What does it cost? This is what I wanted to show you. I wanted to put this back up. And I'll give you an idea. Okay? And there we go. All right. Where is this analysis? There it is, right here. To save this investor $891,000 on our lifetime program, cost about $25,000. All right. But they had $2 million in debt. They're making this kind of money. I'm going to save them $891,000. That's just on this. But what if they decide they want to pay this off and they want to add more to it? They want to get some other buildings, some other investments. Well, they paid for this once. They don't have to pay for it again. So let me ask you, the $25,000 that they paid for this and save $891,000 in interest, would it be worth it? Most people don't pay anywhere near that, and they're able to save a ton of money. Don't focus on what we need to focus on is the cost of not knowing this. Not the cost of the program. That's the price. But the cost is the millions of dollars you will not have for your family. That's the cost. So if I could save $891,000 and we take $25,000 out of this, it's money that this investor is no longer paying the bank. So did they really pay me, or did I ultimately use the bank's money to pay for the program, a lifetime program? Oh my gosh. That's why I said it didn't even cost them $25,000. And since they're an investor, since it was a business, it's tax deductible anyway. My goodness. So listen, I just wanted to give you some idea. So if you wanted some idea, now you have it. All right. The school teacher, the firefighter, The small business owner won't pay anywhere near that because there's not as much work to do. So when we do this analysis for you, it tells us how much your lifetime program is going to cost. What is the price? We'll also show you the cost. So what if this person said, Don, let me think about it. We do the math all the way out. Look at this. By getting started today, you save over $891,000 in interest, okay? Each month you delay will cost you $15,000 on average over the next 4.9 years, okay? That's what we're talking about. That's the cost of not doing the program. $15,000 a month of money he could have saved in interest, but if he doesn't save it, it's going to cost $15,000 a month. So it was a no-brainer for this particular investor. That's what we're talking about. Well, what about this person who's not an investor? What would it cost them per month to wait? Oh, $4,744 a month to wait, to start saving money, to start building wealth. It costs $4,744 a month. Instead of 36 years, they're going to be done in 9 years. Instead of paying $692,000 in interest, they're going to pay $179,000. That's the 74% interest reduction, saving $512,000, so that they could put it away and make $4 million and increase their net worth. But by waiting, it's going to cost them over $4,000 a month over the next 9 years. Crazy money. Crazy money. What we're trying to tell you folks is that with education and technology, we don't need to focus on interest rate. We focus on interest cost. We don't have to focus on what we have to pay to get our house. We don't have to focus on the interest that we pay over here and ignore the interest that we could make over there. That's opportunity cost. Don't miss out. Okay? Don't miss out. Get what you're supposed to get for your family and start building your own net worth, your own bank, your own private bank system here. Okay? And stop thinking the old way about money. We're taught to think like consumers. Okay? Consumers think about the here and the now. Investors think about long-term savings and earnings. Think like an investor. Think like a bank. We have to stop thinking like consumers. We're taught to think like consumers. So if you want to know more about what we're doing here, if you want to know more about this, if you want to know more about not paying cash, do we have that graphic ready for Sunday? Can we put it up if we have it? Because it all starts with budgeting. It all starts with budgeting. We don't have it? Okay. Well, anyway, go to our YouTube channel. Let me show you where it is. Okay. I'll show it to you. Hold on. So what we're going to do here is look at our YouTube channel. Boom, boom, boom. Go here and pull that up. Pull up YouTube. New tab. Bring it up. There it is. Should wealthy people budget? There it is. Should wealthy people budget? There it is. Okay, now we got it. Okay. Should wealthy people budget? You better believe they should. It all starts there. It all starts there with wealthy people budgeting. Everybody needs to budget. even wealthy people. And we're going to get into some of the thoughts behind whether everybody should budget or not. People think that budgeting is for people who are struggling. Oh no. Budgeting is going to be your mainstay. Budgeting is where your wealth begins. So what you want to do is find out what is the best and highest use of the money you're making. Your blood, sweat, and tears makes that money. So do you want it to work less for you, or do you want it to work more for you? When do you want work to become optional? Folks, I work because I love it. When do you want work to become optional for you instead of a necessity? You can start now. And do you know that when you become a P.I.L.L Method client, you not only get the technology and the education, but we have a wealth of services that we've talked about before, and we have videos to prove it. We have people on our staff that can help you to negotiate the price of your new car. We have people that are on staff that can help you to invest the money at a higher rate of return. We have people on staff that can help you to learn how to invest in real estate. We have people on staff that can teach you how to be a lender, how to lend money, how you can be how you could provide mortgages for businesses and lend money to businesses without a license. All of this is part of our program. If it has to do with money, ladies and gentlemen, P.I.L.L Method is a one-stop shop. But all begins here with learning how to manage your loans. There's more to this than meets the eye. So why don't you just think about it, okay? And let's go back to our program here. This is the program that's going to do it for you. This is John and Rebecca Jones. They're going to save $179,000 in interest. They're going to know that right up front. They're going to be paid off in 7.7 years. The program tells you exactly how much to pay and when, right? And it also tracks building net worth, amongst other things. But if I go here to a potential to wealth accumulation, we keep track of all of that right in this system. So if you want a system that handles your money, so it was 2023. So John and Rebecca Jones are going to be out of debt, according to the bank, 2024, 2054, 30 years from now, 2054, even at 1% interest, they could have an extra $859,000 in the bank or in their investment at 1% return on their money and a paid off house. But what if they do like others that are on the P.I.L.L Method? They pay off the house in 6 or 7 years, put a renter in that house, and then buy another one. Pay that one off, put a renter in that house, and buy another one. Do you know we have people that are doing that? All right. And building up their financial empire so that it's increasing their net worth by millions of dollars, not just by 1 million or 2 million. We have people that are doing it by 10 and 20 million based on the houses they now own because of all the interest they did not pay. You could do this too. You could do it too. So listen, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here today. We're getting ready for our celebration. We've been here an hour and 29 minutes. But I want to thank you for sharing ahead of time, sharing our program. So let's go over what we need you to do. Go to ice10k.com. All right. Go to ice10k.com. Watch some of these videos here. Get your savings and earnings report by clicking on this button. Start that today. So don't put it off anymore. Okay. because it costs you nothing to find out what this can do for you. Nothing. So if you have a mortgage, no matter if it's small or large. Now, if especially if you have what's called a jumbo mortgage, what if you have you have a very good income? What if you're a business owner, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer? All right. What if you're in corporate America, anywhere in the U.S., and you make a very good income? Please don't think you don't need something like this. If you're tired of paying all of that interest, if you're tired of where you are, if you want to do something better, this is going to be the thing to do. Get a savings and earnings report and find out what you could be doing. Do more with less. All right. Also, here's what I want you to do. Become an affiliate. Help us get the message out. Click on Become an Affiliate. It takes 10 seconds or 15 seconds to fill this out, and start sharing our YouTube channel with others. And when you find out, call them back in a couple of days. When you find out that they want more information, then scroll down underneath my picture and click on this button, Refer a Friend. There it is. Refer a friend right there. Okay? Fill that out, send it to us, add it as some additional notes, and submit. And we'll pay you. Anywhere between $300 and $3,000 a month on average. $300 to $3,000 a month. What would an extra $1,000 a month mean to your family just by sharing these videos and helping people out? Okay? They need to know. I need your help in getting the message out. All right? I need your help in getting the message out. So let's go back. What else do we need you to do? Buy the book. Okay? I need you to click on that button and get the book so that you can understand what's going on. It's not a ABC 1, 2, 3, tells you exactly what to do, but it does give you a new mindset, a new understanding about your money. And you can teach it to your children, because more people should be doing this. All right, Valerie Robinson, I see you there. I saw you yesterday. Good morning to you. All right, so listen, get the book, read the book, teach it to your young people, so they don't have to undergo the stress we're undergoing by making changes in the way we have been taught to think over a number of years. We can teach the children the right way. Okay, so those are the things I need you to do. Can we do that today? But don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you do that. Go ahead and click that like button. Give us a thumbs up. All right. And comment on the videos. That's going to increase our algorithm. And I meant to go ahead and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for this. Here we are. Drum roll, please. Okay. We are at almost 8,000 subscribers. Almost 8,000 subscribers. All right. We're going to have a special celebration when we reach 10,000 subscribers. Okay. When we reach 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to give a program away. I'm going to give one of our programs away, to a lifetime program. When we reach 10,000 subscribers, we're going to have a contest when we reach 10,000 subscribers and give a program away. Oh my goodness. So listen, but don't wait to get the program. Get it now. All right. So I'm excited about that part when we get to 10,000. And so I'm pretty sure we're going to get there in short order. But thank you very much, everybody, for being here today. We'll be back on Sunday when we're going to be talking about should wealthy people budget. All right. And that's what we're going to be able to do. So anyway, that's my administrative assistant calling me now saying, Don, you need to get off the air. I understand that. Okay, I'm coming. All right. We need to get going here. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. See you on See you on Sunday. All right. And happy Sabbath to all of you. Don't call me tomorrow. Why? Because I'll be in church tomorrow. That's why. But thank you for being here. Spread the news. We appreciate you. See you on Sunday. Bye-bye now.
How many want to know how to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years? You can do all of this without refinancing, without change to your budget, without sacrificing lifestyle.
Me and my husband do the P.I.L.L method, and last year we were able to pay down $33,000 on our mortgage without feeling like we were poor. We still did tons of entertaining things and enjoyed our family.
You don't have to eat beans and rice every day. You don't have to cut up your credit cards. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't have to sell pizzas at night to pay off your mortgage. All you need to do is pay the bank less interest. That's what we're talking about today. Here is what P.I.L.L method stands for: prepayment of principal, isolation of principal amounts, leverage, and liquidity. You understand it? You have a way of getting out of debt more efficiently. The interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay. You think you're buying a $500,000 home. The true cost of that home is what? $758,000. Total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 51.777%. That's what's going on with this loan. The ability to read and defeat an amortization schedule is not taught at any level of financial education. I need you to understand the power of a penny. You will not hear what I'm talking about from Dave Ramsey. Do you know why? Because I own the copyright. I literally wrote the book.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.